Welcome back to another episode of Grit to Glow. I'm your host, Naomi. And okay, let's dive in. But first off, if you missed last week's episode, we talked about rewriting the rules and building your business to fit your life, not the other way around. And so I thought, what better way to dive in today than to dive into the grit? I feel like when I think about grit, I feel that grit is kind of that part of business or life or whatever you're looking at. And when you think about it, you're like, that's the part that everybody glamorizes, but that actually like builds you, right? So everyone talks about the glow up. But what about the grind and the gritty things that happen before the glow? These are essentially the tears, the fear, the in-between moments, like all of those little pieces that make up the journey and where you wonder if it's all even worth it. So I want to share a personal story, a messy middle moment, if you will, where I questioned everything and kind of hit, I guess, rock bottom in my business, if you would even call it that. So when I first started my business as an OBM, I actually was a social media manager, actually. So back when I started my business as a contractor, I will say, or a service provider, if you will, I started my business and was like, I'm going to do content creation, social media management. Like I started to scale my business very quickly. I created an offer back then was called Pinstagram Tango. If you have been here my whole journey, if you know, you know. But that course was my first course I ever launched that taught people how to leverage Pinterest and Instagram and be really present on both in order to grow your following and scale your business. And so I started to take off. Like my business was taking off. I was creating freebies and I was, supporting other women, coaching on social media in communities that I was in, and quickly becoming known as like the social media guru within those communities. And it wasn't until May of last year that I was like at my peak. I was bringing in 11, 12, 13K cash months. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, like I started to feel like, man, this is no longer aligned. So I started to make a couple pivots in my business, both consciously and subconsciously, and my income took a hit. And I would be lying if I told you that it didn't make me question everything. It very much so made me feel like, and maybe you can relate to this if you're somebody who shares your income or your wins with, in terms of monetary value online, but I had been sharing all of that along the way very openly. So when I started bringing in $3,000 to $4,000 a month for a few months there, I felt like, wow, this sense of overwhelming imposter syndrome flooded in. There were days that I felt like, oh, this is a side hustle again, and I didn't feel like the CEO version of myself. I felt like the mom in, the mom in sweats with a cold coffee that I need to reheat, trying to remember like what day it is. Like I felt so hot mess. And I think the thing that I realized along this piece of my journey was that I don't have to have it all figured out, right? Like none of us have it all figured out. I can relate this to parenting. I remember as a kid being like, oh my gosh, my parents are superheroes. They're the world's best parents. And like becoming and coming into my adulthood and then even becoming a parent, I realized how like not together adults have it. Like all parents are just trying to figure it out as they go, right? Entrepreneurship is no different. We have this perception because we live in a world where social media is so predominant that the CEO that you see sharing her monetary wins has it all figured out. And oftentimes those income dips aren't things that are openly talked about until later on in the journey because of this, because we have this feeling, because we're human, that as we're going through that, it is the part no one wants to see or hear about. Because if you are vulnerable about that, then it makes you unqualified. But the thing is, by sharing these parts of the journey, by sharing the not so glamorous parts, you actually aren't disqualifying yourself. You're showcasing that you are a real human too. and that it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have the messy middle moments, right? And so for me, I had to really, along the way, explore so many different parts of myself through that grit to be able to come out to where I am right now. Now, you and I both know that no one posts the part where they're crying on the bathroom floor because their launch flopped, or because they lost their favorite client because that person was going a different direction and it was no longer aligned, or, whatever it is. And I want to remind you, like, especially if you're in a season where you're feeling this and experiencing this piece of your journey right now, that grit is not struggle for struggle's sake. Okay? Grit is not struggle for struggle's sake. It is evidence. It's evidence of your devotion to your mission, to your vision, to your movement. And the glow does not come in spite of that grit. It comes because of the grit, because you push through. It's like, how are pearls made? How are diamonds made? It's time, it's energy, it's effort, it's pressure, it's impossible situations and scenarios, and they come out the beautiful thing that they are on the other side because of those situations, right? So I would say in my journey, some of the biggest things that I have taken from that moment, and that's just one small moment, right? Like, there's been so many moments, but thinking about my income dip and what happened when I made the pivot from content creator, social media manager, like brand designer, to being someone who's known for more than those things, but also the tech and the administrative and the organizational skills that I also have and have a desire to showcase in the work that I do and pour into others with, because I believe that they need both. I learned, number one, that you get to be all of you, right? I think that there's so many reasons why so many people out there push down certain parts of us. And it's like, no, I don't have to do it all. Like, I don't have to run a business where I offer OBM and design work. I don't have to do that. In fact, it's very uncommon. However, I feel that because it's so uncommon, it is a rare thing to find, and a lot of women are looking for it because they need that support internally as their business scales. And so, like, what better way to provide value to someone than to do both for a select few individuals and really be focused on the work that I love, which is doing both of those things, right? Being their internal marketing manager, being their internal thought partner, being their right hand. And I also really learned something along the way is like, discipline is also the thing that holds you, right? Because I think so often we talk about like, God, I'm not feeling motivated to go create this content today, or gosh, I wish I had the motivation so-and-so has because she's just always launching. And it's like, yes, and that person's not just motivated, they're disciplined, and they are eager to serve through their mission, and their vision is so crystal clear. And so we have to give ourselves grace in that sense to not be like everyone else, and that's okay, and be accepting of that, but also know that we have to be open-minded to being humble when things don't go to plan. Like, we all are going to at some point in our journey launch and have it quote unquote flop, if you will. We have to have empathy for our clients, because we're all at some point going to experience either a client defaulting on a payment, or paying you late, or canceling a contract early or wanting to. Same thing with team. You might have things come up where like your team's imperfect because they're human, right? You might be like so in this desire to be your future self and be like where your end goal says you should be, and you're so eager to get to that place. And it's like, the grit teaches you to enjoy the fucking journey. And the grit gives you the capacity to hold that glow up when it comes, right? So my shift, like really being able to reframe my mind in some of these hard seasons from why me to this is building me, came when I decided that I'm not behind. I'm being refined, right? It's like a diamond. I was so under pressure at that point in time, and I had to believe and I had to tell myself, I'm not behind. I'm just not done yet. I'm not done cooking, right? I need more pressure to build me into this incredible leader and thought partner and marketing expert that I am going to show up as for my dream clients. But I needed that time to go through those things, the grit and all of that, to get the wisdom that has lent me so much support as a tool in my business since going through that. Because this episode or this podcast is called Grit to Glow, and it's named that because I believe that Grit to Glow isn't just some catchy phrase or podcast name. It is a process. It is a process that we all go through and can relate to each other on. And I want you to remember, like, grit and having that exist in your life does not mean failure. It means foundation for the work that you're doing. It is setting the stage for everything that's to come. And if you continue as an entrepreneur to go through your journey holding to the truth of what's existing in your business as it's happening for you, and holding the belief that the glow comes after you show up when it's hard, and continue to remain disciplined in the work that you do while allowing yourself to be in the messy middle and still be proud, that is where the magic is created. So if you are in a gritty season right now, do not rush it. Hold the belief that this is where your next level is being built. All right, you guys, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Grit to Glow. If this episode hit home, I want you to share it in your stories and tag me at Desert Lux Creative. And next week, we are going to dive into redefining success and the glow side of this conversation. Mwah, I love you.